My name is Lori Martinelli, and on behalf of the Dalton Green Committee, I want to welcome you to our event. This is our inaugural presentation of our Climate Action Plan. The Green Dalton Committee has been working with our partner consultants from Blue Strike for the past 9 months on this plan.
2 years.
Well, yeah, longer than that, right. I would like for people who are on the Green Committee just to raise their hand. Kathy Purley, Tony Pagliarulo, Tom Irwin, Steve Morantz, David Wazalewski. So I'm going to be your MC for today, and I'm just going to tell you how the program's going to work. I'm going to introduce the chair of the Green Dalton Committee in just a moment. And then after that, David will introduce our speaker, the project manager from Blue Strike, who will be giving the presentation. We'll have plenty of time for Q&A after the presentation. And after the Climate Action Plan is presented, Tony Pagliarulo is going to give an update on plans to begin community composting right here in Dalton. So that is it, and I'm going to turn it over to David. Tom, where should he? Let's see. I think you just have to put your chair right there and turn it around. Here, let me see if I can turn it around. Yeah.
Okay,
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. No, that's true. You do have to have something.
sorry about that.
Or you want to adjust that mic down to just...
Tom, could you help us here with the mic?
Maybe you're gonna have to try. Can I move you?
Where do I need to move?
You need to be facing right here.
Okay.
Sorry, you guys.
Break. I'm gonna move you around.
Okay. Second, yep. See who I'm talking to. Maybe people can hear me? Okay, thank you. Okay, just I'll put a little bit of history on this for folks that have been here a while and know that there's a Green Committee but don't really know what's going on with it.
Can't hear you.
We've been around here since 2014, and various different people have been involved with the committee. We've accumulated about $395,000 in grants that have been focused on revising and renovating town facilities and redoing the buildings and utilities in town. Generating based on utility bills, we're saving the town approximately $70,000 a year on from energy reduction measures that have been grant funded from the state. So that $95,000 investment is not an expense; it's an investment in the town, and it's generating a yearly return. Unfortunately, those returns don't show up in the town financial statements. You don't see this kind of stuff, but for those of us that didn't know and who come to these kind of meetings understand that there's about a $70,000 positive impact to the budget every year from what we have done over the past 10 years. Couple things. We're not alone in this. There's 250 some odd towns that are in the green community, in the state green communities network, that are having benefit the same as we are, and they are all actively pursuing these energy reduction activities. The focus today has been on municipal buildings and facilities. So we've been participating in renovations to the town hall, which have been massive. Anybody knows how old the town hall is? I think they brought it over on the Mayflower. Town hall and the basement and those kind of things. The senior center, even as new as it was, has had a complete LED light renovation, as well as change to the hot water system here. They went from a massive kind of 400-gallon boiler, pretty much a swimming pool they were keeping hot in the kitchen to tankless water system that is saving senior center as well a bunch of money on the utilities. We put the electric charger was funded through a green community grant. The electric charger is out here. Unfortunately, it's not working at this point, but it was out here. We did it. As well as the electric car that's in town. There is an electric car that, I think, last I heard, Animal Control was using it for local stuff. And there was a hybrid car that was funded as the first hybrid police car was funded by the Green Community. A little bit of history. There's the people that Lori introduced that are on the committee now. Other people that may or may not be here tonight. I haven't seen everybody. Cheryl Rose, Jenny Gitlitz, Edward Holland, and Richard Hall were all involved with this committee. There was a committee, it kind of dissolved for a few minutes and then it came back. The people that are here now are the ones are Green Committee 2.0, so to speak. Green Committee 1.0, the people still in town that are involved with that stuff, you recognize the efforts as well as being a long-term effort, and it needs to continue to be a long-term effort because, which is kind of the reason we're putting this plan together. So we're not alone with this open. We have these costs that are associated with Green Community are investments, they are not expenses, because they have returns. And that's part of qualifying for a grant from the Green Communities that you have to kind of itemize out, or you have to demonstrate that there is going to be a financial and energy use reduction benefit from these tasks. They don't just give you money because you feel like getting money. You have to justify the grants. Each of them, and it's not just us, it's 250 communities through the state. They're doing it, so at this point, okay? Try to wind it up. So anyway, that's what we've done so far, and this is the next step. We've been focused on municipal stuff, and now we're expanding. Means that we've demonstrated a successful kind of pilot project with the town buildings and such, and demonstrated those savings. The focus is now Green Communities wants us to broaden our focus to the whole community, to the residents and the businesses that are in town, so that that whole community approaches greening, because it's not just about a couple buildings in town and the Green Committee. It's about the whole community kind of adopting a green sense or a green culture and doing the things that we need to do to reduce energy consumption and to decarbonize, get ourselves off of fossil fuels and producing greenhouse gases. So, and this is the next step to broaden this focus, and we spent the last 2 years, as Roy said, investigating this and looking at the community and what the community's needs are. And here we are to present this. Rich Swanson, our Blue Strike environmental consultant partner, is going to present what we have worked on over the last 2 years in order to roll this out to the rest of the community. So thanks very much for coming out. Just appreciate the support here. Enjoy the
Well, thank you very much, David. Really appreciate it, and thank you to coming out. This is a fantastic turnout. So I know that the Green Community or Green Committee is very thankful for everybody coming. I am, really appreciate it, and so I think we'll just go ahead and dive in. I did want to mention to sort of kick things off that we'll start out with something that's I think is pretty cool and pretty fun. When we started this planning effort, one of the things we wanted to have is a logo specifically for the Climate Action Plan that sort of represented Dalton's values and forward-looking direction, its culture, some of its iconic beauty, and so forth. And so what we did is we held a contest for local students, and they produced these different graphic design logos. They were all fantastic. We narrowed it down to 3, and then our graphic designer with our consultancy with Blue Strike, she sort of picked the top 3 and then eventually recommended a winner, although the Green Dalton Committee sort of kicked in on that. So this winning design that you can see up there right now, and it says Town of Dalton Climate Action Plan. The plan is established in 2024. We should probably update that in the actual icon there to 2025. But anyway, this came from Ashlyn Roach, or Roach. I hope I'm pronouncing the last name right. So thank you to Ashlyn. I think it's super imaginative, very thoughtful. It speaks to the importance of the work. We also want to recognize Grace Radzik and Ella Reardon, who were very worthy and very talented runners-up. So it was very inspiring to see young people very engaged, and kind of reminds us, I think, that the work at hand is really about them, since it has to do with future generations. So anyway, thank you to them and to the high school. I think the high school art department for helping to facilitate that. So wanted to make a few introductions here as we start. I'm sort of, I'm here today, obviously. My name is Rich Swanson. I'm the Director of Energy and Climate for Blue Strike. I live just down the road in the Boston area. So I got up this morning and made a beautiful drive up here today. Encountered a little bit of snow on the way, but it was all very fine. I was supported by a stellar team. I'll just mention Cisco Tomasino, who did a lot of the heavy lifting for developing this particular climate action plan, and so he sends his greetings. Lori's giving him a thumbs up. He was great and really, carried the ball. We already met the Green Dalton team from earlier, the Green Dalton Committee. Committee or commission?
Committee.
Committee. Green Dalton Committee, so you can see the names that are up there for that. So when we started this project, there were a few goals that were in place. And the first one of those is we really wanted to grow Dalton's sort of capacity to act and to make sure that the town has the tools, the knowledge, et cetera, to lead on climate and energy issues. Second, we wanted to aim to reduce greenhouse gases that are contributing to climate change. As David mentioned, many communities across Massachusetts, across the country, and really around the world are involved in this important endeavor, and so we're going to talk a little bit about that here in a few minutes. We also wanted to expand the use of local renewable energy, or at least explore that through solar facilities and other things, and kind of look into that a little bit. We were looking to improve how we might manage waste and protect natural resources. Another key goal was to make Dalton more resilient and better prepared for things like intense storms, the flooding that's associated with that, heat waves and the consequences with those. And finally, we wanted to help the town qualify for both state and federal funding, which is increasingly tied towards having a plan or a framework in place, and this climate action plan serves that goal. So those were a number of the goals that we were concerned with. There are some benefits to producing a climate action plan. As David mentioned a couple times, the word investment. We truly hope that this will be an investment, and as you take this plan and carry it forward as a community, we believe that it really will. For one, there is greater access to state and federal grants through having a framework or a climate action plan. The Mass Save and other programs in Massachusetts acknowledge that those grants can total anywhere between $500,000 for communities up to $5 million. They also tout this benefit of utility savings. Again, David mentioned that the town of Dalton has already saved on an annual basis, just from previous grants, about $60,000 to $70,000 per year in energy costs, which is significant. And so you can see that that falls well within those limits there. We also point to things like quality of life, improved housing stock, often through adopting various efficiency measures for housing, especially new build construction, private investment, job creation, and investment in the town. For example, when investors come in to build a small solar facility or install rooftop solar, those are investments that then the town sees indirect benefit from. Resiliency savings. FEMA estimates that for every dollar spent on resiliency, which means making your structures, your systems, that much easier to bounce back after a event, a flood, or some other natural disaster, or some other disaster. That's what resiliency means. And FEMA estimates that for every dollar spent in preparation, communities receive $2 to $6 back once those events happen. And then as a climate leader, Dalton has already achieved $395,000 in benefits. You heard David talk a little bit about that earlier. There are other things that have happened in the wake of preparing climate action plans for communities across the state and across the country. Many have hired what's called a sustainability or an energy manager to carry the implementation of the plan, and so that is something that often happens in the wake of the development of a climate action plan. Others have used the climate action plan as a town investment roadmap. So they might take the programs that are in the CAP and match those up with budgetary expenditures that they are planning, so whether they're capital expenditures, programmatic expenditures, moving forward, and allow the CAP to inform those expenditures along the way. Sometimes that comes through substitute spending for things that are more sustainable and might provide a longer-term investment payout, particularly in the face of climate change. Sometimes to inform new programmatic spending or investment. Some towns have used savings from energy efficiency to save money for future sustainability needs. So this would entail, for example, benchmarking existing utility expenditures, and then when those savings kick in, for example, the aforementioned $60,000 to $70,000 of savings that come, taking that money and putting it into an account that builds up over time to be able to spend later on other needful endeavors. So those are a few examples of some things that different towns have done. Of course, there are many, many more in terms of policies, programs, various investments in the future of their communities. I wanted to give you just a brief overview of the plan. You can sort of think about this as an executive summary. First of all, it aligns with state mandates. So the targets that are in the plan in terms of energy efficiency and greenhouse gas reductions, and we'll talk about what that means here in a minute, those things are all lined up with the state of Massachusetts. There is a target for net zero greenhouse gas emissions within the plan by 2050. So a lot of things would need to happen between now and 2050. That's 25 years away. That's a long time by some metrics, but it's a short time by others. The pillars of the plan, or the organizational components of the plan, are as follows: transportation, buildings, conservation, and resilience. So we're going to take a look at those different pillars. They're mentioned in various ways throughout the plan. But those are really, you can kind of think of them, it didn't really come out to be chapters, but those are buckets into which the strategies are generally thrown. And then we have a timeline of 3 phases between now and 2040 for executing various activities that are recommended in this climate action plan. Just again for your orientation, the way that we have developed this plan, it's been a very community-driven process. We first did a baseline assessment, so we took all the existing plans that Dalton has in place, as well as county plans, Massachusetts plans, and we sort of distilled those and tried to harmonize those as best as possible. We also did stakeholder engagement events. For those of you who were at our meeting, I guess I can't remember what month it was even, but it was last fall sometime, October, thank you. It was last fall, and I was here and sort of presented some preliminary results and talked a little bit about our process, so we gained a lot of input through that meeting. We also did a survey. We'll show some of the results. So that was the second really phase of the process, and then we dived in at the very beginning of this year and started working on strategy development, which we've been just wrapping up here recently. So for those of you who aren't super familiar, climate change is a situation in which solar radiation penetrates the Earth's atmosphere, and then some of that, the Earth's surface sort of avoids most of that radiation. It warms the planet. Some of the radiation is absorbed by clouds in the atmosphere, and then some of it emits heat back towards space. Well, what happens when greenhouse gases collect in the Earth's atmosphere, it doesn't allow as much of that heat to escape as under normal circumstances or historical circumstances. And so that creates an effect where more of that heat is trapped and absorbs the heat, enhances sort of a warming effect around the globe. And so when we talk about greenhouse gases, those are specifically carbon, methane, and you can see the CH4 up there. That stands for methane. That's the chemical signature for methane. And then nitrous oxide, which is the N20. Those gases trap that heat, and so we call those greenhouse gases. So that's a family of gases that traps heat in the atmosphere. And what we want to do is lower the amount or the level of greenhouse gases that Dalton currently emits through its activities. So that's really what this climate action plan targets, is the reduction over time of greenhouse gas emissions. There are some impacts from this trapping effect. One of them you can see there is that there has been a general raise in temperatures from 1880 to a little over 1 degrees from that date and historical records prior to that. There's a risk of moving yet farther up to 2 to 3.5 degrees. And actually New England has been one of the most affected over the last 25 or 30 years, seeing temperatures raise, particularly in the wintertime, by almost 4 degrees since 1970. So a fairly significant impact that we see here in New England. We've mentioned a few effects. We can see increased severe weather, severe storms, species loss, sometimes rising costs, especially for accelerating investment in infrastructure, other disaster areas. Heavier storms, you can see here a sinkhole that showed up in Pittsfield after a particularly heavy storm. Old infrastructure simply caved, and so this cost, I'm not sure how much it cost, but obviously had an impact on budgetary measures. Here you can see a reservoir also in Pittsfield. It is part of the water supply, so running particularly low, and you're all very familiar with the Berkshire fires here that happened a couple of years ago or a year and a half ago. So these are some other impacts of climate change happening right in your backyard. Definitely something that is current, something that is happening, and so very cool that Dalton has sort of pulled together as a community to try to produce an action plan that would help mitigate the increase of greenhouse gases and move towards reducing them and also addressing some of these impacts. So when we talk about emissions, what we did is we did an inventory early on in our engagement And we did it in two groups or two sections of inventory, two categories. The first one you can see there on the left is a community-wide inventory. So these are all the greenhouse gas emissions, and we measure them in, and if you're looking closely you can see that MTCO2e. So I'll tell you what that means. It's metric tons of carbon dioxide, and then the E is equivalents. So you might wonder, well, what's that equivalent? Well, what we do, you remember from the previous slide, are nitrous oxide and methane. Those are also greenhouse gases. We convert those into the equivalents of carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is an easy-to-use metric, and so we bring the greenhouse gas effect of nitrous oxide and methane into carbon dioxide, and we call it a carbon dioxide equivalent. So rather than talking about all the different greenhouse gases, we talk just about carbon dioxide equivalents. Community-wide, we see about 100,000 metric tons for Dalton's overall community. That's all the stuff you do in Dalton. Heat your house, drive your car, come to the senior center, all of those things. Throw out your trash, everything comes to this total emissions. We also hived off municipal operations as its own separate entity. So why would we do that? Well, there are a couple reasons, but the biggest is for municipal operations, because we have direct control over those emissions, we can do something immediately about them and set that up as sort of a demonstration for the rest of the community, hopefully to emulate, to learn from, etc. So you heard David talk about all the great things that they have done, for example, with this senior center, changing the heat, putting in LED light bulbs. Those are all things that residents and businesses can do as well. And that's a reason why we focus on that municipal operations a little bit, because we can do something about it, and then we can track that very easily over time. So we can track it with energy expenses, we can track it with efficiency, and we can come back later in 5 years and measure it again to see if we have made a meaningful reduction. So for municipal operations, you can see there, we estimate about 268 metric tons. Most of that comes from municipal vehicles, but then a large portion, of course, comes from municipal buildings as well. And you can see on the community side, most of that comes from buildings, and that's heating and using electricity in buildings. And then the next biggest is from transportation, and then a smaller amount from waste. This breaks down, well, this highlights again the community inventory, but it also shows here emissions per person across a couple of different neighborhoods. The first is a very big neighborhood of the United States, and emissions per person is about 17 metric tons of CO2e per person. Dalton is close behind at 16%. Interestingly, Massachusetts as a state is about, not 16%, I'm sorry, 16 metric tons. Massachusetts is about 9, and Boston, the big city of Boston, is about 8. So Dalton has a little bit of work to do, maybe, to sort of catch up with some of these other areas. But I thought that was a very interesting comparison here for emissions per person. And a lot of times, I'll say this, a lot of times more rural areas, you also have some big industry here, those things contribute to a greater per person or per capita emissions inventory. Well, the second thing we did after doing the inventory and sort of looking at all of your documents was we did some engagement activities, and one of them that I mentioned was the survey that we did. And so I wanted to highlight not only the survey, but also the other stuff that, you know, we sort of put into the engagement bucket. First of all, our Green Dalton Committee gave us project oversight. We were really a team working on this whole thing together, very much in lockstep. They reviewed all of our materials, drafts, talked about future direction, and so we've met with them every other week for almost a year. So that we really enjoyed those conversations. And then down there at the bottom, we also would send out various drafts at 2 or 3 times during our process to a community advisory group. They reviewed our survey, they reviewed our evaluation of climate action strategies. But this panel here on the right represents a couple of the survey questions. I'll show you this one here on the first slide. And the question there says, please select the strategies you think residents or businesses should pursue to reduce fossil fuel-based energy use. And you can select any that apply. So these were selected choices out of 231 responses. And the top 5 here were, and I have some notes here so I can read these a little bit easier. But the top 5 here were, well, I guess I'm going to have to focus in on the slide. Maybe I didn't write them someplace else. Energy efficient appliances, solar panels, improved attic and or wall insulation, replacing incandescent or fluorescent bulbs with LED equivalents, and high efficiency furnaces or boilers. All of these, of course, received quite a lot of interest, so you can see all of those, but those were the top 5 vote getters. And we also asked people what you thought the town should do to focus particularly on vehicle greenhouse gas emissions. So I'm sorry, this is, so this was for residents and businesses, and this was specifically the town for transportation. So here we have expand and repair sidewalks throughout the town to encourage more walking and to enhance pedestrian safety. So that was by far and away the winner of the different options. After that, we had increased installation of EV charging stations around town to adopt or to uptake EV adoptions to accelerate the uptake of EV purchases. And then third, encourage increased use of public transit in Dalton by working with regional authorities to expand bus service in the town. So those were the top 3 from this particular category. And you'll find that later on when we get to some of the strategies, those have been integrated into some of the strategy selection. I mentioned at the onset that Dalton has, through this plan, adopted some community-wide targets. One is a 50% reduction in greenhouse gases below 1990 levels by 2030, so that would be fast approaching. And again, these are in accord with the Massachusetts targets, 75% below 90 levels by 2040, and net zero emissions by 2050, with no more than 15% of emissions remaining above 1990 levels. And then we have some municipal operations as well, eliminating on-site fossil fuels in municipal buildings and vehicles by 2050, reducing emissions to 199 metric tons by 2030 from a baseline of 268, and reducing emissions to 99 metric tons by 2040. Again, Dalton is not alone here. These are quite common targets adopted by many communities across the state and communities all over the world according to some of the international agreements, specifically the Paris Accord, but others as well. So our last stage was to pull all the information that we got from you, from our various document searches, best practices that we kind of brought to the table, and to distill those and come up with some very unique, locally attuned Dalton strategies. So they fell into these 4 buckets, and so you can recognize some of the themes from the previous slide. Transportation and mobility, buildings and efficiency, which if you'll remember, those were the big emitters from the inventory a couple slides ago. Then resource conservation. This has to do with how we manage our waste and our water and our wastewater. And then green community, and I'll show you an example of what some of those are. Our best practices came from different regional peers and other nationwide climate action leaders. We vetted these with the GDC and the steering team. We had an online voting system where we had a bunch of different strategies, and a bunch of people went through and voted, yes, this will work here, no, this might not, maybe. Then we discussed those a little bit, and there was a very iterative back and forth through the strategy list. And then we had a final review by the Community Advisory Group, of course, as well as the Green Dalton Committee. So here are a couple strategies, a couple sample strategies that you will find in the plan. And the first one here has a goal of a transition to EVs. The first strategy would be a municipal strategy, which was, move towards electrification of the municipal fleet. And then the second one is to support a community-wide transition to EVs. And you can see the actions there that would lend, hopefully, incentive, paving the way, so to speak, for people to invest in EVs. One is installing more charging stations, particularly in high-traffic areas. Another one is just an educational campaign for the community on the incentives and rebates that are available for new EV purchases. The third one is campaign businesses on the incentives and rebates associated with installing their own charging stations so that EV owners can park close to their businesses, charge, and go in and go to their stores, stay at their hotels, etc. And then work with other towns in the school district to consider transitioning school buses towards electric buses. So there are a lot of state programs that are targeting school buses right now, and so this is a great source of additional funding as well for regionally cooperative measures. Well, if we move from transportation to buildings and efficiency, you can see here a goal that is in this particular category, reducing community-wide emissions from non-industrial buildings 50% by 2035 and 100% by 2050. And two strategies are here. One is to expand community awareness and access to financial incentives, programs, and renewable energy options. So that is an educational campaign to sort of spread around information about incentives that are there. And you can see the education on mass save incentives up there at the top. There are low-income weatherization programs with subsidies for insulation and efficiency improvements. And then promoting Dalton's Community Choice Power Supply Program, through which there is a 100% renewable energy package. So if you sign up for that, you can sort of count your electricity as being sourced from 100% renewable sources. And then enhanced building codes, particularly for the municipal buildings in this case. This would be developing policies that require fossil-free and net zero standards for any new construction for municipal buildings here in Dalton. Two more of these sample strategies that I'll just show you here. Stormwater management, to maintain and upgrade sewer and stormwater systems to enhance safety, efficiency, and mitigate environmental impact. And you can see some of the action steps over there. This is really a resiliency or an adaptation strategy. So the idea of adaptation is if we know that we're going to see increased heavy storms, perhaps separated by longer periods of drought and so forth, then we want to make sure that we have the infrastructure and solutions in place that we can quickly bounce back. That's that idea of resiliency. This really targets that concept and idea. And then in the area of green community, preparing for extreme weather and natural disasters, educating residents on climate disaster preparedness, the resources that are available to them, educating community measures that can be taken to reduce the risk of wildfire would be another one. And there are, these are the action steps for this particular strategy here with green community. So, Towards the end of the Climate Action Plan, which you can find online, you will see an implementation plan that is organized into 3 phases. The first one covers the years 2025 through 2028, and that phase really focuses on some foundational efforts such as hiring what's called an energy manager, or the possibility of that, identifying renewable energy projects, and then building community awareness. So these are activities that we're recommending for those first 3 years. After that, move into phase 2. These have activities that advance initiatives like municipal fleet of electrification, expanded public transport, and improved waste management. So some of these, you can see they're a little bit longer time frame. They add a little bit of lead time so that, whether there are new budgeting efforts that need to go into place or different partnerships that need to be pursued, so there's a longer runway there. And then phase 3 emphasizes stormwater upgrades and water conservation. So again, more lead time to get into some of the infrastructure components. So these are really designed, all of the activities are designed to take advantage of state and federal funding sources, including Mass Save, Green Communities, the Climate Leaders Community Initiative, and Mass EVIP. As you can tell, a lot of them require coordination across not only departments, but even across city or town boundaries into the county and perhaps beyond. So the actions that you'll see in the CAP are quite clearly laid out and hopefully ensure transparency and accountability. I also wanted to point out that, and you may have picked it up on the way in, if you didn't, I'd encourage you to bring one home with you. We have included in the Climate Action Plan a residence guide, and so this has specific stuff that you and your family can do right away to help mitigate the effects of climate change, reduce the overall town's carbon footprint. Right now in the state, there are policies in place, particularly in the electricity sector, but other places as well, that would, if they're followed, would reduce emissions by 33% by 2050, just as what we call a business as usual case. So this is, you might have heard the term greening the grid. This is Massachusetts renewable portfolio standards. But the rest of it is largely up to us and policies and compliance with other state policies that require those of us who live here in the state to make our own personal investments. And so these are things that you can do by improving your own energy efficiency in the place where you live and work, perhaps thinking about changing your transportation habits towards public transit or maybe an EV, reducing waste by recycling, composting, reusing and repairing things, and then also saving water. When we move water around, that uses electricity, and so that's something that we can also do. The final report is available online. I think it's been uploaded onto the website. So you can see most of what I just mentioned here, and you can download it if you want to, or you can just read it, the page is there. And then also the residence guide, again, available for you at the front, and also available online. It's a separate chapter of the overall report. So that's it for me. That's basically an overview of the Climate Action Plan. So Lori's going to join me here and facilitate some questions and answers.
Yes, thank you. And yes, please do take the residence guide, which is on the table. Do we have any questions for the audience? Can you come and stand here by the tape, because then it can get on the, we want it to be recorded. So just walk up to the front, John, and there's some tape right here.
Come on, up here. All right. First of all, I'd like to congratulate the Green Committee on...
This is John Boyle. He's a select person
Oh,
here
never mind
involved.
that.
Thank you.
I think we all know that. Look,
this thing.
I don't know how to say this, but,
Well, you can stand right there.
well,
So
maybe we'll look. Everything with this green plan seems to be weighed on the residents. You are all, for the most part, very compliant and helpful, and have worked with the Green Committee to reduce our footprint. But the elephant in the room is our largest employer, with several industrial buildings. Have you reached, the Green Committee reached out to Crane & Company to be part of this? Because they're a big part of the town. And I never heard anything mentioned about Crane & Company.
David, you want to respond to that?
We have reached out several times and have got very limited response. We do understand that they have a sustainability group that ownership structure for Crane & Company that is based in Connecticut. We have not been able to get a significant response out of these people. We understand this is a problem. We also understand that they're a federal contractor and they have some very specific kind of goals and objectives based on how they function as a federal contractor that at least until recently have causing them to generate more decarbonization, more energy savings.
David, you are absolutely right. They are a national corporation now. They're in, I think, Bridgeport, or
It could
New Haven, something like that in Connecticut. National. And they have very little interaction now with the town or town government. Believe me, I'm in the town government. We have no relationship with them whatsoever. And I think they're such a large part of the community. I mean, I don't know how many buildings there are, industrial buildings.
360 employees, yeah.
And the employees, I think it's important that we make every effort to bring them into trying to reduce our carbon footprint.
Thank you.
And thank you for your work.
Yes. Okay, can you please come up and stand here so we can get it recorded? And then Liz, you have a question too. Oh, that's your question, okay.
Thanks for the presentation. So this isn't your first rodeo. Have you, in the other communities that you've done, what has been the most effective thing that the residents have been able to do to help reduce the carbon footprint?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, you know, as you picked up through the presentation, there are things that, you know, that all of us can do and pitch in, and they don't have to be big investments, and the state has sort of made it easy or easier in some cases to do, you know, for example, upgrades on our homes and different things like that. But I would say probably the most significant thing that you could do right now is to support the adoption of the plan so that it becomes sort of an official plan for Dalton. And then the Green Committee can work on executing that plan. And so in terms of, you know, a quick, easy action, endorsing it, you are here, you know, obviously you are concerned about these things or you probably wouldn't have shown up. So Dalton is a place where, you know, you can call your selectmen, your select board members, or you can talk to them in the back of the room and just, you know.
Or your Green Committee members.
Yeah, and your Green Committee members as well, and talk to them, you know, right here. I listened to an interview with the Minister of Energy from Finland on the way up here, and they've like reduced their fossil fuel energy use to 5% of their total energy use in Finland for electricity. So really, really significant. All of it comes from, you know, sustainable or renewable at least energy. Anyway, the point that I was going to make is that she said, you know, we are fortunate we live in a country where we can go and talk to another minister. You know, you might meet me at the grocery store. We can have these conversations, you know, in real time. And so I just encourage you to take advantage of that and you know, voice your support.
Thank you. Is there another question? Yes. Can you come stand up here so we can hear you, please?
Stand on the mark.
Oh, yeah, yes, right.
My name's Susan Purser. I'm with the Beckett Energy Committee, which sounds very similar to the work they're doing. And just to toot our horn, we just got awarded from Green Communities about $140,000 to build a wind turbine, so which will offset the power for our town hall and partially for our highway department. So we're busily trying to get organized to construct the wind turbine. It's going to be 120 feet tall, well, 135 altogether feet tall. It's a 15 kW wind turbine, and it'll put out about 40,000 kilowatt hours a year. So that should take care of, hopefully, depending on how net metering goes, it should take care of the town hall electricity consumption for the year, and also a little bit of the highway. So that's just to let you know about what we're doing in Beckett. But my questions are, how did you estimate the CO2 emissions that you showed there for vehicles in the town, buildings? Where did you get those numbers from?
Yeah, so it's a great question. The numbers are not like super mysterious or complicated. So what we do actually is we take the energy used, and we collected that from Mass Save, or not Mass Save, Mass Energy Insights, I think it's a website. We collected energy used here in the town of Dalton, and then this is particularly for buildings, and then we multiply that by something called an emissions factor. So what an emissions factor does is it takes the units, it has a unit of energy, and for every unit of that particular kind of energy, it factors in how many metric tons of CO2 equivalents that produces. So you have 1 kilowatt of electricity, that has a certain emissions factor, you multiply those two numbers and you get the total emissions. For vehicles, it's a little bit more challenging, but we took estimated vehicle miles traveled for the town of Dalton, and so this was something that we can do a couple of different ways. We have a partnership with Google EIE, which is Environmental Insights something, and they track cell phone, usage across. Maybe it seems a little creepy, but anyway, they know when you're moving across town, where your cell phone goes and stuff like that. They don't know you specifically, they just have this sort of aggregated data. So they can give us the miles that are traveled in Dalton and so forth. And then for the waste, similarly, we got, tonnage estimates for Dalton waste and multiplied that by an emissions factor in the same way.
Interesting. Now, how was the CAP project paid for? With Blue Strike, how was that paid for by the town or by Green Communities or?
This happened 2 years ago. Tom Irwin was here, made a presentation at the town meeting, and a plea for $60,000 to support this effort, and the townspeople voted to support that through tax dollars.
Okay, so Green Community didn't fund that.
I believe there are programs that are coming through Green Communities that are available to support this kind of effort as well.
Okay, oh, interesting. Okay, I was just
Those are more
thinking.
recent.
Okay, yeah, I was just thinking for Beckett how one does it. Okay. Also, under the emissions per person that you showed, the chart where you had the U.S., then you had Massachusetts, and down to Dalton. Was that per year, the 16 tons
Metric
of CO2?
tons, yeah.
That was per year?
Per year. That's right, yeah, those are numbers per year.
Okay. My last comment is, I always find it a little disheartening that a lot of the emission or the temperature when scientists are talking about the temperature rise, you know, by 2030, we can't have more than like, you know, 2 degrees Celsius to go up, or I'm pulling that number out. You know, it's frustrating that it's not in Fahrenheit also, because I think that has a lot more impact on, you know, the US population as to how high this thing is really getting. Because when you say, oh, over the last 100 years, we've just gone up one degree Celsius. Well, that's probably like 2.5 degrees Fahrenheit. And then you say, well, we don't want it to go up any more than, you know, 2 degrees more Celsius. But I mean, that's like 4 degrees Fahrenheit. And so people, I think, get a better understanding of how drastic this is, how, you know, what an impact this is. It's not just 1 degree Celsius. Anyway, that's just my...
No, I appreciate that. That's very interesting. Yeah, I really appreciate that.
Go ahead, Michelle.
Oh, hi. I just want to make the comment regarding what can we do to help this initiative move forward that doesn't cost a lot of money. The point was made that in answering Susan's question, that we received money through the state, from the state, as a result of a vote taken at town meeting. And I'd like everyone to know that our town meeting on May 5th is going to be dealing with a warrant article which everyone can vote on. It won't cost you any money to vote against the warrant article that is being proposed to change the stretch code to the negative building stretch code in Dalton. We don't want that to happen. The stretch code helps ensure the movement towards sustainability, addresses the sustainability inherent in new construction. So everybody in this room can get to town meeting to vote against that, and it will really help ensure our progress.
I just want to add to that, because not only for reasons of moving forward, but we will lose our green certification if we lose that stretch code. So the $400,000 we've gotten, the money that we're going after in the future, that all goes away if Dalton rescinds its stretch code. So the green community is going to be doing a lot of education about this issue, because it's going to have a big negative impact on Dalton's future.
Thank
Do
you.
you have any? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, and I just want to thank our state rep, Lee
Yes,
Davis, for being here.
Yes,
And,
stand up.
It is super important to have our elected officials aware of what's going on in our communities, and we're very grateful for your presence. And we're also, I will speak for myself, I'm very grateful to the state legislature for passing a law 4 years ago, the Climate Roadmap Bill, that is mandating that our communities must, well, the entire state has to move toward reducing our emissions by 50% by the year 2030. It's state law now. So that's a comfort. So we need to be aware that our legislature is working on our behalf, and we have to keep on bugging the legislature to make sure that that momentum is ensured.
And you know, just on that note, Rep. Davis's staff comes to the senior center the first Monday of the month in the afternoon from 12:45 to 2:15. So if you or your neighbors have issues that you want to discuss that go directly to the representative, you should come on the first Monday of the month. And thank you, Rep. Davis, for coming. And also, I want to just mention, we have John Boyle, who's our select person, and we also have Robert Collins as our select person here. So I want to thank you two for coming and showing an interest in this issue. Are there any other questions? Yes, Robert, you have one. Can you walk up here, please?
Got a few questions, as usual. In your slideshow, you had a portion of the $2 to $6 savings by being prepared for disasters being recognized. are the insurance companies, utilities, governments, and residents getting this benefit, and are they recognizing those numbers?
Yeah, maybe say your question.
So I guess how much of the investment of that $2 to $6 is going into the investment savings, and where is it actually coming from? Is that $2 to $6 coming from the government, the utilities, or the residents?
Yeah, no, great question. So I think, and this is from FEMA, by the way, this is a FEMA calculated sort of national average. If you invest $1 in resiliency, you, on average, will get paid back between $2 and $6 in terms of, you know, not having to recoup certain kinds of costs after a particular disaster. So I think that the theory behind the FEMA number is that, you know, those investments in resiliency are worth it and they pay off over time. So exactly where that money goes, the FEMA figures are assuming that that comes back to the one who makes the investment. So if I spend $1 at my house making it more resilient to flash floods, for example, you know, installing a sump pump, then I can expect, you know, $2 to $6 in avoided costs once that flood comes, and I don't have to pay for it.
All right. In the presentation, in phase 1, we have a sustainability director or manager position that we need to hire for the community. What are 3 of the top major tasks that you would assign them when they were hired? And you know, this isn't this position, I assume, is a 6-digit salary person, probably or close to that, and we share that with 2 or 3 other towns, that same coordinator, and how is that broken up between the towns?
Yeah, so this is a great question, and first of all, let me say that the success of the overall cap doesn't rise or fall on the back of whether or not, and it's an energy. Some towns have sustainability managers. In the Massachusetts case, there is a program and a grant available for hiring what's called an energy manager. And so I think the grant is, I don't know, you guys might know better.
We applied, Robert, through Berkshire Regional.
Can you stand up,
Yeah,
because they
sure.
can't hear you,
Yeah.
speak in, just go up and speak.
Sure, we applied.
I'll share it with you.
We applied through Berkshire Regional Planning Authority for an energy manager to be shared with several towns. That was a grant program. We haven't heard back.
Okay.
It's $140,000 for 3 years.
But it's how many communities?
Yes, it's multiple communities that have applied for this. I think, wasn't Beckett?
To share, yeah, to sort of share the position.
What were the, Steve, what were the towns?
Williamstown.
Lanesboro,
Williamstown.
Yes.
And the logic behind that is that we've been doing work on the Green Committee, as all committees here, we're volunteers. We're not professionals. So we are extending ourselves and we don't have that knowledge base.
Right.
So someone would have that knowledge base. In this case, we're not spending money to hopefully gain money. And if the community sees that we've done a good job, hopefully that would be an appropriation made in the future.
So you asked about 3 things that they would do. So I think the first would be looking for money. So grants that are available at the state and federal level. So if they did nothing more than just write grants, you would anticipate that. I mean, a lot of grant writing is just it's a numbers game, and so you write as many as you can, and you qualify. You sort of organize your pieces, and then you hopefully see those grant monies come in. The second thing I would say is hand them the climate action plan and say, start working on this. Start calling up the partners that we're going to need to develop relationships with. Start organizing educational campaigns, and according to some of the strategies that we have listed. So that would be, that would probably be numbers 2, 3, 4, and 5, according to the different activities that they might be involved with.
All right. And then my last question is sort of falls on what John was pointing out about creating a company. in your carbon output loads, it shows Dalton's at 16.
Per person, right,
Per
right.
person, and I think that's an awful way to describe the town of Dalton. I think we're way better than that number, because Crane and Company is such a large and vast industry that occupies such a square footage in our community. We don't have the population to offset their carbon load. So you're giving us a number for our town that really isn't a real number per population.
You're absolutely right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I appreciate you pointing that out. I mean, it is skewed by.
I mean, that's like, you're
heavy
scaring everybody
industry.
here in this room that Dalton's doomed.
I didn't mean to scare anybody.
And it's not a real number only because of our population. But if you also took into consideration the carbon sequestration credits that could possibly be founded because of our
All the
open
trees.
space and all our tree area in this area, I believe you could make a very good argument that Dalton is not as bad a situation as you think it is.
Point very well made and very well taken. Yeah, David.
Do you have another $100,000 that we could dig into that study?
I'm just trying to come from the other side. I have a degree in forestry, so I feel that you didn't give the open space and the environment, the green space that we have in the town of Dalton a fair shake to try to help show the number Dalton is a better place than it really shows.
No, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's a great point, and that wasn't necessarily my intent. Obviously, averages can be, misleading and skew things, and so I didn't mean to scare anybody or make you feel super guilty or something like that. That certainly wasn't my
And
intent.
then last but not least, I think the Green Committee's done a great job with this presentation. I did sit in on the early end, but I did meet you early and you're going. I think it plans is a wonderful plan. It comes out with a lot of statistical data that I hope we can use moving forward in some aspect, and I appreciate your efforts and time.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you very much.
So do we have any, can you go over to the, would you like to come up and ask that question too, sir? That way we can get you recorded. We're on Zoom and we're on cable. We're on cable TV. We've got NBC here.
I don't mean to monopolize things here, but just kind of a general comment on this whole thing is this plan establishes a context. It doesn't tell us exactly what we need to do. We don't need to buy an electric. Everybody doesn't need to buy an electric car. It's not prescribing things that you have to do. It's setting a context for what needs to happen in the future. Nobody knows how far electric cars are going to be able to go next year or the year after or the year after that, or how efficient the furnaces are going to be, or heat pumps and such. But part of the challenge is for the Green Committee is to keep track of all these different technologies so that we can make sure that the community is aware of this stuff, because the environment is changing, the technology is changing, and everything is going so rapidly that it's really difficult for the normal person to keep. For the normal person to keep up, we've kind of dedicated ourselves to be that advisory group that sits out there, so that when these for instance, Beckett is having a wind turbine. Dalton has some other solutions that are going on there specific to our needs and our abilities. So as we go through this, we need to pick and choose from these menus and match them up, make sure that we're trying to decarbonize. That's the goal. We're not telling you how to do it. We're telling you what needs to be done. And then as a select board and as a planning board and as everybody goes through their decisions about how to move forward, we need to say, okay, is this consistent with the decarbonization effort or with the energy reduction effort? Let's integrate this into all of our other decisions. This isn't just a Green Committee thing. This is a committee thing. This is a community thing. Everybody in the community has to partner up with us with this and adopt this. The other comment is this plan has not yet been formally adopted by the select board. We are presenting it at the end of the month at the meeting, and we'll be having the select board vote on whether to adopt this or not. So come to select board meeting and encourage select board people to.
Thank you, David. So the comment about it being available on the website, that won't happen until after the select board meeting happens. Okay, thank you. Did you have a question, sir? Sure.
Richard Hall was a former Green Community member, I mentioned it. And Winnie Brown is here too, I forgot to mention her. I'm sorry. Our young local architect focus on sustainability.
Yeah, Richard Hall. So this was great to see. Just one comment. You had water as the last thing. What's really interesting here in town is we don't have meters. So you just turn on the tap and you can water your lawn and whatever. That might be a low-hanging fruit that could be looked at. And the second thing was, not only was Fred here on Mondays, but Casey, who's Paul Mark's representative, is here on first Monday as well. I had a great sit down with both of them discussing all sorts of things. So do make use of that, because I'm sure it gets fed back to their representatives that have got so many things to do. Thank you.
Just a quick comment, and thanks. If you guys want to just
Yes,
line up,
stand up.
that's
Yeah,
great.
line up. Let's do it,
Ahead
yeah.
of time.
Bill, come on.
Thank you for the comment on water, and actually that is in the plan. It's just delayed a little bit to give some time for some infrastructure development and so on and so forth. So, yeah, go ahead.
Can you introduce yourself?
Hi, my name's Elizabeth, and I'm Lily. We're here on behalf of the Green Umbrella Club at Wacona. And so what I was wondering is, a lot of our students and us as officers, we try and do our best to combat those awful statistics with our environmental attempts at Wacona. So one thing that we've fallen short for these initiatives has been the funding. I know last year we really tried to get composting, but it would require getting more pay for the janitors and stuff. And so we're just wondering if you have any advice on how we could implement any environmental policies that would help.
Yeah, that's a great question, and David has some first-hand answers.
There's green communities for communities, and there's green communities for schools. And if you guys can manage to get some attention over there, you can have your own green committee that has access to $200,000 or $300,000 a year to fund an initiative that you guys want. But you need to form a committee, and you need to ask for this, and give you grant applications and such. I'm more than willing to help you guys do that if you want to contact me.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you so much.
Leave your contact information.
All right, thank you.
That's great.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Oh, yeah. And just looking at this is very, very interesting, and if we could have all of them maybe put into the town hall so that people can see them and see what they have to do if there's a lot left.
Oh, yeah, the Green Committee is planning to distribute
Oh, they are,
those, yes.
okay, all right, yeah.
And we'll also have it available electronically as well.
Oh,
Saves paper.
And trees.
And trees, right, since we are
Right,
ready.
Committee.
All right, well, I think
I think we have another.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, Bill, come on up.
Thank you. My name is Bill Drusine, and I just I have a couple of comments as you were going through the process. And a lot of what is planned has a deep involvement in electricity, and I'm curious, has anyone done any level of research in relationship to Eversource and the supplies and the size of the wires and such that are within the town to be able, for instance, if we were to decide to put up a windmill or a solar field or something of that nature? I know there's been talk of that over the years. I've been kind of at this a while, so we hear often of these really great things. But then all of a sudden we get a handcuff called Eversource. We had plans on a solar field several years ago, and it fell to the wayside, compliments of Eversource. So that we will find is a common theme. That's a very large hurdle to overcome. So I just want to make sure that during our process and during our thoughts, we're thinking of these things, because we certainly don't want to, with all the great work that's taking place, we don't want to end up with a set of handcuffs and all of a sudden we're all working hard, we can't get any further in the process.
The next thing
Wait,
is...
do you want an answer to that question?
Sure,
You have any
if you
comment?
have one.
Yeah, I mean, not a super easy answer necessarily, but,
Yeah.
and many in the room know probably even better than me in terms of interconnection timelines and, you know, things like that take time, permitting, you know, even before you get to permission from Eversource. So all that stuff needs to be looked at. You know, there's provision for feasibility studies within the plan to investigate those things, to suss out the costs and try to look at, you know, the permitting, the permissions, the regulatory regime for those new energy sources, if that's a, you know, a particular investment. So yeah, understood, and those, you know, sometimes those things can be long. I mean, that's part of the, you know, that's all part of the process of renewable energy. So a lot of energy developers are super familiar, of course, with all those pieces.
Part of the long game.
Yeah, it's the long game. That's right. That's right.
As the chair of the finance committee, I do want to mention, everyone probably has noticed over the years, they've noticed the LED street lights. The town of Dalton put aside $65,000 so those lights, so we could get a grant, compliments of the Green Committee, and I want to make sure that they receive all the recognition for that. They did a great job putting it together. We had to set aside $65,000 to receive the grant. And with all of the work that everyone did, that $65,000 was unnecessary, and we were able to put it back into the free cash where we took it from. So thank you very much to the Green Committee and all the hard work that they do. But I wanted to be able to give everyone an example of where you can actually see what is taking place from this group. So they're doing great work, and we need to kind of continue in that direction. And last but not least, to you, David, the $100,000 for the study. Come see us. You might be able to find it. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Representative Davis.
Yes. Thank you so much. I'm here to learn and to represent you and to really take what I've taken from this meeting and from the Green Committee and from the Climate Action Plan and bring it back to the State House. I've been assigned to the Climate Action Sustainability Committee, and essentially we are the advisory committee for all the different committees at the State House. So that's a House committee, that's a Senate committee, it's joint committee. So what we're going to be doing as the two-year legislative session takes off is bring us to towns such as Dalton. So we're going to be having listening sessions, and part of my hope is to bring some of the community members here to find out what's going on, what are some of the concerns. I have had a meeting with Crane recently, and I'm going to take these concerns back to them and make sure that they're more part of the community that they are now. I know that they did express that when I had met with them. And you know, you're doing such great work, and again, my staff is here every Monday, the first Monday of every month. And you know, come here. I'm usually not able to make it, but anything that you bring to our staff comes to me. So if there's concerns, if there's anything that you want me to research, I'm happy to help you. So again, I'm your voice, and I'm here to connect the 18 towns that I represent. So feel free to use me as a resource as much as you need to. And again, thank you so much. Thanks to Blue Stripe, and I appreciate it.
All right, well, we're going to wrap up this section of the program. Thank you very much. And so now I'm going to introduce Tony, who's going to talk about composting, which is something easy that you can do, which he's going to explain.
Thanks. Thanks to everyone. If everybody could do a 7-inning stretch, I'd understand. I'm running a little late. I want to thank Lori for the time and energy she's put into this, and for all the officials that have appeared. I want to just preface my remarks by thanking Tom Irwin and Todd Logan. This process to where we've come to this point started 3 years ago when we started reviewing what we termed the Williamstown model versus the Egremont model. And at this juncture, we're looking at the Williamstown model for community composting. Just want to read something. In 2019, the Environmental Protection Agency reported that 70 million tons of food waste in the United States, only 5% was composted. That waste, municipal solid waste in our landfills, is creating methane gas, a greenhouse gas. It accounts for 14% of the greenhouse or methane gases produced. It's the third largest source of human-related methane gas. We are working in line with our Commonwealth in terms of the Solid Waste Master Plan program, where it's recommended that there be a 30% reduction in waste by 2030 compared to 2018 levels, and a 90% reduction by 2050. The state of Massachusetts landfills, you can count on one hand. They're disappearing. They'll be disappearing. There may not be any in terms of a 20 or 30 year period. So community composting is the direction. Compost, as you know, it enriches the soil, conserves water, it reduces the use of fertilizers while reducing methane gas emissions. Okay, what's Dalton going to be doing? Dalton will be accepting all food scraps, and that's protein also. Before I go on, how many people here compost at home? Great. Okay. So I'm a home composter also. I do not put protein in my compost. That's going to attract critters.
Meat, you mean?
Meat, fish, chicken. That will be accepted at our landfill station beginning July 1st. So all of that will be accepted. The one exception will be animal litter, kitty litter. That is toxic. And we hopefully will have signage to that effect. Brian at the landfill will monitor this process. Okay, so this will hopefully begin on July 1st of this year, and I want to particularly thank Bud Hall. He's not here. He knows I'll be speaking, and Bud deserves so much credit. He's renovated an old shack that you might have seen by the brush area. It's ready to go. He'll be returning hopefully by the end of the month after his vacation and setting that up. So we're going to be ready to go with this. To participate, you will require a $120 transfer station ticker, much like we have now, or if you choose not to, you can buy the $60 recycling permit only. So you can join for $60. The participants can deposit throughout the year during the regular transfer hours. The shed will be enclosed. It will have 32, 48, or 64 gallon totes. And this will be provided by a compost contractor. Bids will be going out shortly. We have 2 in the county, and they are licensed contractors. The process will be monitored, as I said, by our transfer station attendant. Every week, the contractor will come by, pick up the totes, take them away, and replace them with freshly cleaned, rinsed, new totes. So that's the process that's going to happen. In the summer months, it may get a little bit odorous, to say the least. If that happens, we'll have a container with sawdust, and this is what Williamstown has done. You take the sawdust, put it on top of your compost, close the bin, exit the shed. And again, Brian, this landfill monitor, will be monitoring that situation. This will be taken away by our contractor and deposited locally for compost. And it will be at a Mass DEP certified facility. Okay, right now, as a matter of education, we belong to the Northern Berkshire Solid Waste Management Program. And currently, our waste, our municipal solid waste, is delivered to the Canadian border, Morrisonville, New York, a trip of some 7 hours and 350 miles. That won't be the case with community composting. We'll be specific to Berkshire County. Our community created 372 tons of municipal solid waste, 57 hauls at $180 a haul, and a tipping fee of $120 a ton. That's a lot of money. We're currently have about 570 landfill permits for the fiscal year 24. We have projected that 50 households will participate in this program, and we've calculated the savings. There's a win situation across the board. A win for the environment in terms of reducing methane gas, a win for the town of Dalton. As part of the community composting, we will receive what are termed recycling dividend proceeds, or we're part of the recycling dividend program, and we receive points. And in receiving points, we receive money through the state. And I believe in 2023, it was in the neighborhood of $3,700. And that will improve and increase as time goes on. We don't expect to save on the haulage, but we will save on the tipping fee in terms of the waste. Given the 50 households, we estimate that our community will save approximately $600 a year. In terms of the individual costs, that is really unknown. We can only speculate. Right now, if you go to the compost or go to our landfill, you now use either a yellow tag or a green tag in terms of a large or a small bag. Well, we're projecting that you will save at least one bag per month if you community compost. And so that's a savings to the homeowner of $36 to $48 a year. I've run through that really quickly. I don't know if anyone has any questions or concerns. Yes, Dave, yeah.
Oh, me?
Yeah, you,
Oh, sorry.
sure.
Hi, Richard Hall again. In a past life, I did a little bit of research into this. So apart from the community side of it, which makes perfect sense, because if you look at trash barrels around the town, my wife and I maybe fill up half a bag of garbage because the rest gets recycled plastic, or we make very little composting. Are there going to be personal ones of those available for households?
I know Northern Berkshire Waste were selling those, and I talked to Linda Cernick, who's in charge, and that she will hopefully have some for sale. I think they're at cost, I don't want to say, $48 or $58. That's for home composting.
Okay.
Yeah, but again, I intend to possibly use home composting because I like to recycle and reuse. Our composting at the landfill won't be available to the residents, but I know that I'll be taking my animal protein to the landfill for recycling.
Well, that's exactly what I was going to say, is the animal protein you don't want to have around home.
That's
because
correct.
Critters,
That's
bears
correct.
and other things. So you take it to
Right.
And the other point that I think was very important is that if we can reduce the amount of waste going to solid waste, that's going to help bring down our greenhouse gases, because unlike it used to go around the corner to the incinerator, and that's a whole different conversation, it's now being trucked.
That's right.
So that's a lot of, carbon.
It's a lot of wasted energy trucking the
Exactly.
Canadian
So if we
border.
can deal with it locally, that's a much better
Yes.
situation. Thank you.
Okay. So people have asked I skipped over, how do we get it to the dump? Well, you can have whatever container you wish in your house. You can then transfer to a larger container in your garage, or you can take it directly to the landfill as you see fit. And again, whatever hours are open. So it's a very simple, it's not a complicated process.
So there will be the containers there that we can just dump smaller things.
Right. There'll be a shed, there'll be signage, it'll be right across from the attendant's office.
Perfect.
You come out and your paper, your plastic or whatever, go across the.
Tony, is this what you're talking about?
Well,
Something
that,
like this?
if you use a 5-gallon, sure, but
Yeah.
you then go across and empty your compost
Compost?
and you're done.
Perfect.
What's not allowed are plastic bags, styrofoam, anything like that. And that has been an issue, but I think our landfill attendant will check in on that, so that won't be an issue. I just want to address one thing with the schools too. I have talked to Principal Rob. I understand the high school had composting up until COVID. It is being discussed. The strategic, not the strategy, but the methodology has to be worked out, but it'd be wonderful if we could reinstitute it at the high school. The issue, as I understood, is that some things get mixed in there that shouldn't get mixed in there, and it has to be monitored. So if it can be monitored,
That's what the Green Umbrella Group can do.
yeah,
Monitor
probably.
the,
Tony, I think that's one of the things that I'm surprised. I sit here and when I went up and spoke, there's quite a few high school. How many kids here today from Wacona? I applaud you guys for coming out today. I was assuming if we had this at 9 o'clock this morning, none of you would be here. So 12 o'clock, 12:30 is good, and pizza, I'm sure brought you here, but I compliment you for coming today. And to follow up with what Tony said, maybe the two young girls that are leading the way here with the rest of you can help promote the high school to go back to doing a composting program, and maybe the Green Committee and some help and guidance by Tony would, I'm sure he would be more than happy, as he's already stepped forward to help you with that process. But once again, I compliment the high school kids for being here. Thanks for coming.
We're going to the high school on the 28th of April to do a similar presentation. 29th.
One last thing with the high school, one last plug for the high school students. When we put out our survey, we were hesitant in terms, not hesitant, but nervous about having a reply. And the high school came through extraordinarily well. I think we got some 40 or 50 survey replies from the high school. 60. 60, thank you, Tom. So it was a good, matter of fact, you skewed our results a bit, but that's okay. All right, any other questions?
I'm going to just talk about backyard composter for a second.
You got it.
So that is my backyard composter right here. And I just want to talk about this. Oh, geez. All right, wait a minute. Nope. So that is a composter that I bought with my neighbors. It wasn't all that affordable, but you can go online and find more affordable bins. That one costs about $200, but it's a big one, so three of us use that. So can you go to the next slide, Tom? Nope. All right, wait a minute. We will. So when you install the bin, you want to install it in grass or the ground, because you want the earthworms and you want the other organisms to go into the compost to speed up breaking down. Okay, so this is my kitchen, and this is just the container I use. So when you take the waste from your kitchen, it can be in whatever container you want. And every couple days when that fills up, I bring it out back and dump it in my composter. But I want to say so there's when you order one, they come with some simple rules. So what is allowed: fruit, vegetable, coffee grounds, tea bags. You can see the stuff in there. Tea bags and tea leaves, eggshells, dead plants, cut flowers, used potting soil. What is not allowed in these, and this will be different than the community composting because they will take meat and fish, but in these you cannot put in any meat, fish, food waste, cheese, bones, diseased plants, ash, cigarettes, vacuum cleaner bags. I guess people try to put vacuum cleaner bags in there. Litter or drink containers. I do put paper towels and Kleenex. I do put them in my compost. Okay, so can you go to the next slide, Tom? Okay, and that little handy thing, that little yellow handle, that's a really nice mixer, because if you mix things around, it'll break up and compost quickly. So you pull it up and it's got these little wings that go out and move it all around. So that's very helpful. Okay, and then I think there's just one more. Okay, and these are, if you go online, so this is at Amazon, you can go online and there's all kinds of options for buying composts and what you want to spend. So I encourage you to do this. We've been doing, my parents are here and I'm always yelling at them if they're not composting the stuff that goes in there. But we've had a compost in their backyard for 20 plus years.
Oh yeah, all of that.
And I lived in Boston for 16 years and composted there. Never had any animals, any problems whatsoever. Of course, that's why you have to keep the meat and all that stuff out of there. So composting is an easy step that we can all take in our community, and we'll have the option, of course, taking it to our local landfill. So that pretty much that's it for my slide, yeah. That pretty much wraps up our program. I want to thank you guys for being hardcore and staying through the end. I want to echo the recognition of the high school students, because really, it's up to you how the planet's going to be taken care of going forward. So we appreciate your interest, and yes, we'll look forward to working with you. Thank you, Rich from Blue Strike, for the excellent work that you've done, and you're all excused now. Huh? Yeah, let's do a picture, you guys, good idea.
Right?
What do I do? Yeah, I got there. I went back and got it. From the students, yeah, from the students.